Hey everyone, Das from Critical Thinking Anarchist here. Um, so I do apologize about not having the next Quantum Leap video out. The first one was such a pain to get to that I just haven't really had any desire to do this at all. But I've gotten in several discussions online and in person regarding the post office, and I used to work for the post office fairly recently. During COVID, I lost my previous job, and so one of the jobs that I applied at was post office, thinking that was going to be a good idea. And I saw the writing on the wall and left after a while. We'll just say that. I was there. I was there over a year. I'll say that much. And I did leave on my own. I didn't get fired or anything. I got a better job, but of course, I keep seeing people saying, wondering, it's in the news, in fact. Minnesota has pulled in the post office, wondering why the state legislators, are wondering why mail is taking so long to get to, why there are delays, why people are not getting their mail on certain days. So I kind of wanted to jump into this a little bit. And I've had a couple of things. People are like, "Oh, it was all about Trump, and it's the joy, and it's the Republicans." Um, no, this was going on long before them. It's just that's when you started to notice. The post office has been broken for decades, and certain people are aware of this. Now, if you lived in in the cities, various cities, if you lived in a neighborhood, chances are you didn't really notice this that much. But if you lived in the country, there's a very good chance that you are aware of this. One, because the people who live in the country probably know their post office people a little bit better than the people in the cities and the people in neighborhoods. And two, it's a much different experience when you're a rural carrier versus a city carrier. Um, and I was a rural carrier. Now I work directly with the city carriers, and this isn't to say anything about either of them. I mean, both good people, both hardworking people. Um, you know, I respect most of the people who work in the post office. I'll say that. Um, yeah, again, this has been broken for decades. I mean, the post office was set up to deliver mail, not packages. UPS was set to deliver packages. FedEx is set up to deliver packages. DHL set up to deliver packages. Amazon set up to deliver packages. None of these are set up to deliver mail. And what is the difference between being set up to deliver mail as opposed to set up to being set up to deliver packages? In the mail, now, I mean, in the old days, in those trucks, you had trays filling up those trucks. They had so much mail, so many trays filling up those shelves. They got two shelves on each side of the truck, and each one of those probably about 8 feet long, maybe 10 feet long. And they've got these 18-inch by, I think it's 18-inch, maybe it's 12-inch, 18-inch by 36-inch trays full of mail. And it used to be, again, in the old days, it used to be you filled up that truck. You filled up each of those shelves with those trays. And that was your entire route. And that took you all day to do. Over the years, as mail has become less and less, especially with the advent of email and the internet, et cetera, mail has gone significantly down. Mail itself could never run the post office, which is why they started delivering packages more and more. And this is a big thing. So they go house to house delivering mail. Well, a lot of times that's just wasting time at this time. You're relying on bulk mail. You're relying on junk mail, which is like 1/10 the cost of regular mail. So for each of those 55-cent letters that you get in first class mail, that only costs 5.5 cents. That only costs 5 cents, 5-6 cents for a commercial dealer. Someone sending out those junk letters and things like that. So as bulk mail, as they call it, it's basically what's kind of keeping the tires on the trucks, keeping the trucks going out. But if it wasn't for the bulk mail, trucks would barely leave the station, leave the annex, as they call it. They do call them annexes. Um, so one of the other problems is one of the biggest problems is that they're running low on the workforce. And if you've ever applied for a post office, it is a super stupid and long process. When I applied, I don't know, I think I applied back in December or January or something like that. It took months for them to call me. And then it took it took like 3 months for them to call me, and then it took another like 3 months to hire me. And they wanted me right away, but that's just how long it takes. And they go through the background checks. I mean, a lot of places, say, oh yeah, we'll do the background checks, we'll call people, whatever. And then they barely do. Maybe they call a person, maybe they send an email, maybe they, they do a quick check on references, things like that. Post office does it. They call them, and from what I've understood from every government agency, they call everybody. They check every reference, they go through everything, they verify everything to a T. So it's a long process, and everything just takes time, which is already a bad sign. When it takes 3 months from the phone call saying, hey, can you come in for an interview, to and that person saying, we like you, we want to hire you, we got to go through our process. So say that all happens on day one, which in my case, that pretty much was. They wanted me day one. It took 3 months to go through the process, to get the paperwork, to get the background checks, to do everything. So that already, sours everybody, because who can wait 3 months on a job? Let alone 6 months, let alone I applied and it took them 3 months just to get to the application, let alone another 3 months to get to actually hiring me, even though they said they wanted to hire me right away. I'm like, okay, when should I put in my notice? I want to put in my notice right away to my previous, to my current job so that I can get out of here. And you're telling me I got to wait 3 months. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to do kind of shuffle back and forth, trying to do all these things, jump through these hoops to get this job. You got to go in and fill out paperwork. And now you got to go in and do this other, do fingerprinting. And now you got to go in and do this other thing. You got to do the truck driving test. Make sure that you can actually drive a truck. So it's kind of ridiculous. Another part of the problem is it is 100% seniority based. The post office and government in general, for the most part, is 100% seniority based. There is zero meritocracy. So it doesn't matter how good of a worker you are. It doesn't matter how much extra you do. If you work in the private sector, at almost every job, there's some sort of additional compensation for doing more, for going above and beyond. At the post office, if you say you sign up a bunch of commercial customers on your route, people with small businesses, and there's a lot of like eBay people and things like that. Say you sign them up and they sign up on a commercial account. You don't get anything for that. You don't get a bonus. You might get a, hey, thanks for adding business, but really all you get is extra work. That's it. You just get extra work. Now, if you do that at UPS and FedEx, I believe there is some sort of compensation. Like you get a finder's fee type of thing, like $100 or $500, or you get 1% of whatever they make off that person. Yes, I don't know what theirs are. I've never worked for them. I've never looked into it, but you get something. But yeah, at the post office, you just get more work. So, what's the incentive there? What's the incentive to do more? Why am I doing more? That's just stupid. The only incentive you get is job security, but that's not much of an incentive, sadly. You don't get recognized. You get no recognition for going above and beyond. You don't get any recognition for doing more. Maybe you get a, hey, thanks. I was called in all the time as a sub because the 4 other subs ahead of me didn't want to answer their phone because they didn't want to work, and they don't get in trouble for it. You don't get in trouble for it. There are literal criminals working in the post office right now. There are people who have who do various illegal things, whether it be drugs, whether it be violence, whether, whatever, carrying something on them that they shouldn't have in the truck, or whatever it is. I mean, I'm saying the criminals on the job. They do things on the job, and either they don't get fired at all for it, they get fired, or because their supervisor didn't follow quote unquote correct procedures, nothing happens to them. They get to keep their job. Or the worst one, and I knew a couple people that had this happen to them. They got fired, were out of the post office for years in some cases. They sued, won their job back, and received back pay for the time they were out. Because, once again, something, a T didn't get crossed, an I didn't get dotted. Like, it's super ridiculous. Like, again, this is hearsay. One of my coworkers at the time, I had been told, I have no verification of this. He had been fired years before for doing drugs on the job. I don't remember what it was exactly. He had been caught. They had it. They went through whatever. He was out for a certain amount of time. I don't know how long. I want to say it was like 2 years. He got fired, sued, won. Not only got his job back, but got back pay for the entire time that he was out. This is part of why the post office is losing money. The other part is it's run on smoke and mirrors. Postage barely pays for anything these days. They rely on contracts with commercial customers, especially the big ones, especially Amazon, UPS, FedEx, DHL, whatever else. Now, the funny thing about these, now for the most part, Amazon doesn't just dump packages onto the post office. The post office knows which ones are and are not going to be coming to them, because Amazon has done their infrastructure work. They've been building their distribution network and everything like that. They've got all these warehouses and things, so a lot of it they can do themselves. So the things that are going to the post office are, as they call it, the last mile. So it's things that are more than like 5 miles from the Amazon distribution center. So they get sent to the post office, and the post office takes it on their routes. Sometimes that happens during their regular routes. Sometimes that happens on Sundays, and Sundays and holidays are the big ones for the post office in those cases. UPS and FedEx have this nice little contract with the post office where, of course, they have contracts with Amazon and other places too. And they can just dump off their packages last minute. And they kind of do this thing of, these are due tomorrow, and we can't get them done in time because we don't have the workforce, or whatever it is, or it's too far out of our way, or whatever. So they ship them to the post office, and then the post office better get it done that next day, or the post office pays a fine. Same thing with Amazon. If they don't get those packages delivered by a certain day, then the post office has to pay these fines. And I think that's kind of where that $1.2 billion in profit, that they cited on that audit when Trump was criticizing the Amazon contract. They're sitting there like, oh, well, the Amazon contract is actually really good. It makes $1.2 billion annually for the post office. Yes, if you're looking at things like, the post office constantly delivers those packages. And on time, so they're not being fined as much as they are with the other shipping companies, as they are with UPS and FedEx. And UPS is probably the biggest one that does this, that dumps packages onto the post office, or at least at the annex that I was working at. UPS was there daily and gave us pallets and pallets of packages, especially during this time of the year. FedEx usually had is usually less than 100. So, and 100 spread around the entire office. We had, I believe, 50 carriers, somewhere between 40 and 50 carriers. So we were decent size, but not huge. And that's a combination rural and city between that. But anyway, UPS was usually several pallets worth that they just kind of gave to us. And one of the other parts that is hard about that too is that when you do commercial things, you've got to go to these places of businesses and pick up packages. So it's not just delivering packages for them. You got to pick up packages to take somewhere else, and that takes time. That's the whole problem with packages. Packages take time. Mail is easy. Mail is quick. The hard part is sorting the mail. And so depending on, the rural carriers and the city carriers, some you take it to the street, you just take them right out and go. Others you sort. The way I was taught to sort because there's a lot of errors. We usually had errors. We had, because they have automatic sorting machines, and thankfully we didn't have them in our annex. Apparently they did before I had gotten there, and they had gotten rid of it a couple of years beforehand. But in some of the larger annexes, they have the automatic sorting machines. Well, they're not very good. So you end up having to resort sorted mail. And you usually get, a lot of times you'll get your sorted mail, your pre-sorted mail that you're supposed to then again sort a second time. And then you have you have bulk mail. So you have your magazines, you have your flyers and your ads and things like that you can kind of make a decision on how you want to do it. Now, when it comes like things like magazines and stuff, you want to sort those as well. So all this takes time. All this takes time to actually do. But again, mail is fairly easy. Once you get into the thing, into doing it and how to do it efficiently, you can do it in probably about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how large the mail is. And again, this is just the mail portion. Packages, again, thankfully I was in a smaller annex. Packages take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. So it just kind of depends on how many packages you get, time of year it is. Again, during the season and during COVID especially, it was every day. I would have during the high part of the season, almost 200 packages. So, and when you figure your route is probably about 300 people, 2/3 of your route along with the mail, you're also delivering packages. Now you pray to God they're getting the small ones that can go into the mailbox, or that they have the mailbox that can accept a package. Most people don't. Most people are ordering either large things or have those stupid mailboxes that only allow the smallest little slit of mail, and then everything else you have to get out of your truck and run in. So when you're just doing mail, each house is probably about 5 seconds. Again, relatively quick. If you're starting going to 10 plus, you're taking a long time. Packages are about a minute each. For each package, you're probably spending about a minute on each house when you're delivering. So this is where, yes, post office is very different. This is where post office is losing money, because they're spending so much time doing something they're not set up for, because they have to go house to house. And not only are they delivering mail, but they're delivering packages. So you got your mail right in front of you, and then you got to go into the back of your truck and get the package. And you're not set up that way. It's tough to set up your truck that way, because the trucks were not designed for that. There's a reason that UPS and FedEx drive these giant vans, and the post office drives a tiny truck. This is all smoke and, the post office is run on smoke and mirrors. They are. They make it look like they've got this thing going, but they don't. They don't have anything going. Because they weren't designed for it. They adapted to it. They didn't adapt well to it because nobody they had at the time knew how to run a package delivery business. And so they're doing the best they can. And I had somebody make an observation. It seems like the post office actively hates its customers. Yes, absolutely. Because you are making them do a job that they were not set up to do. You think you're like, well, the post office has been delivering packages, in this type of way for the last 20 years. They should be used to it by now. Doesn't mean they're set up to do it. Their trucks are not set up to do it. They're not. And if you think that, your packages are being thrown around or crushed or whatever else, yes, they fucking are. They really are. Postal workers, yeah, they don't like you. They don't like you when you're ordering these packages because they don't want to be doing this, because they're not paid to be doing this. The post office gets paid the least amount of all the delivery businesses. The only reason there is to be a postal worker is because the government benefits are amazing. The health benefits are so cheap and so good. Your pension is great if you get there, and you have to get there, and that's the problem. I did not stick around long enough to be vested, because I saw what was going to be happening, and I said, "No way am I doing that." It was getting to the point where I was going to be working 7 days a week because of Amazon. Even as a regular, I'm like, I don't trust that I'm going to be promoted to regular and not be working 7 days a week. And I'm a worker guy. I'm someone who, when I get a job, I do my job. So I'm not a government person. So I answer my phone when they call me up and say, "Hey, we need somebody." I do the extra bit of work because I don't want to get in trouble. But that's not the way the post office works. That's not the way government works. It just isn't. But here's the biggest problem. Yeah, for the people who are like, "Well, this is still a relatively recent thing." Post office has been this way for years. A lot of people are either too young or don't remember the going postal memes of the 80s and 90s. That was postal workers who were so overworked that they literally shot people in their offices or on their routes or whatever it was. And it was a common enough occurrence that people stopped working for the post office for a while. People stopped, doing it. And they had a shortage for a little while. But yeah, the post office has been broken for a long, long dang time. And the worst part about it is you have 600 CEOs in charge, and they only care during election time. All the legislators, the people in the Congress and the Senate, they only care when it's time for election and someone says something. Otherwise, they don't care at all. They don't. The current LLV truck, the current postal truck that's on the road, was supposed to last somewhere between 20 and 30 years. So it was only supposed to last until like the mid 2000s to maybe the 2010s. And the review for that didn't even get started until like around 2012, 2013. And then they found a design, and that took it, several years for them to do that. They finally approved the last trucks around in late 2010s. They finally approved a truck right around 2020. And then it wasn't electric enough, so it got pushed back. Then they finally came to an agreement on how many electric trucks could happen, and then that wasn't enough, so they pushed that back and made them do more. And that the first trucks were supposed to roll off the assembly line at the end of 2022, and then it was pushed back, and they weren't supposed to roll out until the end of 2023. Now maybe 2024, 2025. Who knows? But again, this is all Congress and Senate just not caring. They don't care. They don't care about the current workers on the roads. The fact that these trucks have been lasting for 30 and almost 40 years is insane. But that's all sides. That's not just Republicans. That's the Republicans. That's the Democrats. It's everybody. They don't care. DeJoy barely has any power at all. He basically just keeps the thing running. Trump didn't do anything. And people try to say, "Oh, well, he tried to slow down the mail. He didn't. He tried to speed it up. He tried to get rid of those little blue boxes. You get rid of those blue boxes, those blue boxes have to be gone to and have their mail removed at very specific times. So it's at 9 o'clock, every day. Now, if it's not receiving enough mail, sometimes they do it where they say Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of thing or something like that, because it's not receiving a lot of mail. But if it doesn't even receive that much mail, why have it there? Why have it there at all? You know, especially when a lot of times there's another post office. You know, there's another box like a mile or two away, or the post office itself is a mile or two away. So why have it there? Why are we wasting time and money with this when we could just have our driver go past that, you know, remove it, go have our driver go past that. It really doesn't inconvenience most people that much because clearly they're not receiving enough mail to have it picked up anyway. But anyway, again, this is all, you know, people are like passing the blame. They're like, oh, this is new. No, you just didn't know about it. Post office has been broken for a long damn time. I mean, maybe if people really want to know, you know, I can get in. I could probably do another video on this. I really wasn't planning on this one, but like I said, since I've had multiple conversations about this, I kind of want to get it out there. But anyway, I hope everything is great for everybody. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas or holiday or whatever else. And you guys take care, and I will see you next time, probably in the new year.